Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for Stage 2 of the Critérium du Dauphiné from Premilat to Issoire, where Peyo Bilbao won a couple of years ago. Hilly, hot, heavy roads, 205 kilometres, pretty long stage for a one-week race, and lots of hills. But, crucially, there is a hard hill, the Côte du Château de Buron, so they either called Buron or Buffon yesterday, 3.2k, 7%. That's 60 k's from the finish, where that climb begins. Pretty hard. And there's a little kicker at the end of it too. They then descend, go through the finish line as a valley. There's then the Côte de Nonette, 1.8 k's, 5.9%, but 19 k's from the finish. 20 k's from the finish is where it starts. And then the last hill's 810 meters, 4%. I mean, on TV, you can't really even see that sort of hill just about. They're in the big ring smashing over it for a short descent, and the last 2.5, 3 k's are flat. So I was surprised they didn't make the kilometers to go, like the 3Ks to go at the top of that hill. That being said, especially as there was unsignaled road furniture, I believe, Benji, sort of near that descent.
Yes, but I have a question for you. Would this stage have been better if there was a bonus second sprint on the second last hill, which is that hill where, was it roughly 20 kilometers to go, the Côte de Nonette, if there's bonus seconds on top?
Yeah, there would have been. The GC guys would have gone for it, but maybe it would have been this. Poggy would have gone for it. Maybe Jorgensen goes for it. Would they have continued? Possibly. I mean, yeah, we saw Little Trek setting out their stall. They made sure an easy break to control went, and they couldn't have hoped for a better break. It was Monsieur Ursulin from Cofidis just on his lonesome today. And,
respect.
Well, I do respect
Ursulin.
him. I do respect him because how many teams have a chance to win today? Like, what's their plan to win? I mean,
good question.
I think 2 teams plan to win today, Alpecin and Trek.
You've got Little Trek, which their goal is to win the sprint with their sprinter, Jonathan Milan. You've got Visma Bike, UAE, and the main GC teams in general that I don't see as teams that will necessarily try to go for the stage win, but just focus on their GC riders. I'm okay with them not being in the breakaway. So those are 3 teams. Alpecin with Van der Poel, you could argue that they're going to try something for the stage win from the peloton, so I'm okay with them not necessarily being in the breakaway. But the other teams starting to get limited, when it comes to the other teams in the peloton. So I agree with you. When it's a sprint, and Jonathan Milan is by far the best sprinter at the start line, you would expect that teams either... you shouldn't have confidence 100% in a sprinter that has 2% chance of winning. Therefore, you should hedge your bets. We've said this so many times, by the way. Hedge your bets by having your sprinter sprint at the end, but during the stage, put someone in the breakaway. Therefore, you put pressure on the team of Little Trek that are trying to control that breakaway and making it easier for your sprinter afterwards, even if your breakaway fails. So it helps both ways.
Yeah, I was surprised, especially as the start of the stage was not easy, like a lot of hills in the first 2 hours, where I really don't think Trek could have controlled. Like they were hard pressed getting Milan to a sprint when it was just, there was no pacing. Alpecin didn't pace any of the hills. They were just chasing Ursulin. I think Picnic's the only team that had a plan. And so Ursulin goes. The break, unfortunately, it starts to get tight. And then Romain Combo goes across with Victor Gernalek and Christopher Juhl Jensen of Arkea and Jacob. But Combo's on Picnic. And what I think Picnic were trying to do was replicate stage 1 of the Tour last year. They get a rider ahead. They're trying to get a satellite rider in the break. Yeah. And then their plan is to jump across with Bardet later. It's a good plan. It worked last year in the Tour. I mean, Trek were pacing with Emmanuel, and then on these hills, they didn't look that sharp to me. But then Alpecin didn't make it hard on the hills, Benji, either.
No, Alpecin didn't necessarily make it hard. Maybe they didn't necessarily believe that Milan could have been dropped on these hills. That's also a possibility. But I agree that the Picnic Postinel is a solid plan. Reality is, it's not very likely to work, but it's better than doing nothing. And that's why I appreciate plans like that. And yes, you said it, 4 riders end up being in that full-on breakaway then before we get to that Côte de Buron climb. We've got Romain Combo, Juhl Jensen, Paul Ursulin, and Victor Gernalek. Pretty sure there's another brother Thibaut in that same team. But this 4-man breakaway ends up going to that Côte de Buron. 1 rider survives on top. It's Victor Gernalek. The rest kind of drops on that climb itself. So got a bit of a fight between the breakaway riders there. But does anything happen in the peloton on this climb?
On the longer
Côte de
one?
Buron? Yeah. the Buron.
Nah, just Visma on one side, UAE on the other side with Novak, Strandhagenes for Visma, Volta as well. And I think Trek trying to sit a little bit with turns a bit further back. Bahrain were there. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe were there, but they didn't put a pace. This is what I don't get either. I think every team has a legitimate chance to do something on any parkour across the year when they're racing. It doesn't matter if you're a big team or small team. You're entitled to try something, but like, why right at the front, but then not make it super hard for Pithy? That's what I don't get.
It depends on the two things. If you're indeed trying to make it happen for Pithy, then you'd like the race to be harder, so you want to make it harder. If your goal is to keep Lipovic safe, then I understand what they're doing.
True.
But it's a two-angle game for them where I would have expected them to make it a little bit harder for Pithy, because otherwise he doesn't necessarily have a chance at the finish line in this race. But I want to bring you to the discussion point we can talk about for a little bit, because the positioning game in today's race, super entertaining. You said it, Visma bike on one side of the road, UAE on the other side of the road, other teams also trying to position themselves. They're not trying to control the one-man breakaway of getting a leg that will eventually be caught. Their goal is simple. They want to keep their GC rider as safe as possible. And how do they do that? They want to take one side of the road, make a bubble around their GC rider, or just keep them at the front in that position. In doing so, keeping them in front of potential crashes. But what happens if a corner to the right comes, for example? Because that's where there was a bit of trouble between Mr. Pollitt and Hagenes, right?
They all both want to be first. So when it's a straight road, there's no problem. There's a truce. That UAE on one side, Visma on the other side. Don't half-wheel each other, stay in position, although they do there. It's always speeding up. And this goes back to yesterday, Benji. This goes back to yesterday. So yesterday, Pogacar was isolated in the final. Didn't matter. Visma attacked him 3 different times, covered each one, won the stage. Thank you very much for attacking Jonas. No problem. Yep. Positioned himself in the final 15 Ks. He got asked about that this morning, saying, oh, what was it like being a bit isolated? He said, did it myself, no problem. Team kept me fresh throughout the day. He has to say that, of course. But you got to believe that last night, surely, the DS said to Niels Pollitt and Wellens and Narvaez, that wasn't good enough. Tomorrow's a hilly sort of sprint stage. You've got the golden ticket, the golden goose with you. You don't have to do much for him to win, but you got to do a better job than yesterday. Surely that conversation happened, Benji.
I would expect so as well. Now, I've never found Niels Pollitt the beacon of positioning within the peloton. He struggled for a while. Milano-San Remo was another example of that, but before that, we already said it in the run-in towards Milano-San Remo that we didn't necessarily expect him to be the positioning god that the team might think he is. When it comes to other riders, I am confident in the positioning of Wellens.
Yeah,
yesterday
Wellens
was a little bit disappointing. Sivakov, he's always part of it, but I just don't think that's his role. I don't think that works
does
for
his
him.
Best. Sivakov does the best with the tools he has. It's kind of like asking Koos to do it.
Well, yes, but that's also an interesting topic, because on the other side of the coin, you've got Visma bike with Per Strandhagenes, who's still super young dude, Norwegian classics rider basically in the build-up, and also a strong rouleur. And I was super impressed by the way he held the front in today's stage and was able to keep his position, especially in the discussion point we want to have right now, where there's a corner upcoming. Hagenes has the side of the road that ideally you have before going into that corner, but Pollitt is on the other side of the road, and both of those teams want to go into that corner first. So, what happens? Pollitt from one side of the road crosses to the other and tries to speed up to come over Hagenes, but Hagenes sees that, in doing so speeding up himself, and Pollitt can't overtake Hagenes because they're on the same exact position on the road next to each other. So Pollitt ends up shoving shoulder towards Hagenes, like, get out of the way, it felt like. I'm sorry, but Pollitt is not entitled to that position, right?
Well, no one's entitled to a position. You know, Hagenes is not entitled to a position.
Unless you're in it.
Yeah, if Pollitt sprints in front of Hagenes and goes in front of him, he's earned a position. There's no problem. Too bad for Hagenes. It's what Wellens does at the end of this stage. Visma run out of numbers. Wellens closes Jorgensen by sprinting in front of their train, and they wash over the train. Totally legitimate. Wellens did a great job. The problem is Hagenes is side by side, and Pollitt keeps riding into him. And this is why I brought up the context, Benji. It's because, like, Pollitt Like, he's under a lot of pressure. He's paid a lot of money. This is his job. And yesterday he couldn't position Pogačar in a peloton of 130. He's not been at the front. Today after this, he's not at the front afterwards. And it's his job. Like, he's not getting paid to sit at the back. And so he's stressed. And he needs to show that he's doing something. Plus, he has the anxiety because he can't position. So he's not, he just is like stressed. And that stress manifests in this.
I think it's a bit too excusing for the thing he does, because he's kind of endangering Hagenes in what he's doing. And if Hagenes crashes, half the peloton crashes. So I think saying the stress is what led him to this is a bit too much of defending Paulet, maybe, when I feel like Paulet should just know better.
No, like, don't get me, I'm not defending Paulet. Like, if he wasn't called Niels Paulet and paid as much, they would kick him off the tour team already if he wouldn't cry so much and put in Vermeersch or Bjerg. But
Vermeersch is a better choice. Not than Paulet, than Nervais.
But you know, he'd cry about it. So, pardon?
Vermeersch is a better choice than Nervais, but I'd keep Paulet in.
Yeah, because Paulet's a climber.
Yeah.
Because he can pull the climbs and control those stages really well. And don't get me wrong, really, really strong rider. But yeah, the reason his classics results are inconsistent is because if the race works out as it does in, say, Omloop last year, and he can come back and then attack, like in Roubaix, incredibly strong rider. But to make splits by being in position, he just can't do it. And so, but anyway, I thought it's a bit of argy-bargy. It was the only entertainment really in the stage before the sprint, I think.
Hey.
Do you reckon yellow cards?
Like, some people were mentioning yellow cards.
I'm
not sure he crossed that line. For me, I agree, maybe a warning. But then again, some people see a yellow card as a warning, but I feel like the punishment is too harsh to see a yellow card as a warning. So for me, it's Paulet. You almost crossed the line there. Get your shit together. Don't do that again tomorrow if you're a jury member, you know?
Yeah, he just got to focus on what Wellens just does his job. Wellens is thinking, I'm protecting Tadej Pogačar, not doing some silly nonsense.
Wellens, the beacon of... Wait, was it Wellens to Lampard or was it Lampard to Wellens in that...
It was Quickstep. It was Quickstep who put 3 riders over him in the Golden Kilometer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was nasty.
That was very nasty. Anyway,
sprint,
right? No.
They go over the hill. Again, Romain Bardet attacks, but there's no one in front. He does get a decent gap, but the GC teams are controlling him and he's got no breakaway to jump across to, so that's unfortunate for Bardet. You know, we're thinking, okay, he's going to try every day. He's going to try, which is good on him. And he's brought back. There's a positioning fight. Trek, by the way, did we mention how, like, do you think Milan... I think there's a way that Milan doesn't win today's stage.
Ooh.
That's what we said yesterday.
I don't see it.
If it's hard across the day, that's okay for Milan. If the last 2 hills are ridden full gas with attacks, that's a bigger problem for Milan.
I agree, but I don't necessarily see a way where that would have happened today on those specific hills. The second last one was too far from the finish line, and the last one seemed too easy, no?
Yeah, that's the thing. We're probably asking for something that's unrealistic. It's a 4% climb. Is that really going to redline Milan? Probably not. And yeah, Wellens gets good position with Narvaez, starts pulling Pogačar. They actually go through 3Ks to go. They're still pulling. There's some road furniture. It's a fast descent finish. I don't know. It was a little bit sketchy. I'm glad UAE put it in a line, actually, for everybody, because the sprinters teams weren't ready to take over. Normally you think, okay, let the sprinters teams take over. But actually UAE were like, well, where are the sprinters teams? Trek, it's not like they have 8-man lead-outs here. And Trek come late. They get to the corner first with Edward Turns. I think it was Turns, who, by the way, wasn't getting dropped on that long climb. He waited for Milan. Edward Turns is like, these guys who are 33, they don't just start declining. He's improving, like Planka. Like, Edward Turns this year has been really, really good, and he delivers Milan off. Van der Poel, there's just a huge fight. The fight behind Milan's wheel, it must have been like the scene, I can't remember what movie it is, you know, is it Hitman, where there's the Ave Maria and it's like slow motion, but there's bullets and a huge gun scene? Ave Maria. Milan is in Ave Maria on Turns' wheel, and behind him is about 6 French guys, Van der Poel and co, trying to kill each other. I
would ask you for a better rendition of the Ave Maria, but I don't want to kill our viewers' ears, so...
Ave Maria. Could be like that. Who was the false tenor in Eurovision? The guy that won.
The false
Who won
tenor?
Eurovision?
Oh, it was not Switzerland. Switzerland was last time. Who won this?
Was last?
I don't know. I don't remember. It was that good of an
It was
edition
Austria.
this year.
It was JJ from Austria. Yeah, and they copied the Swiss song. They just kind of did a same style.
Anyway,
Andorra,
French
if you want to pay
sprinters.
Me, if you want to pay me, I can do Eurovision next year.
Sure, buddy. French AliExpress sprinters were fighting in the background, like you said, and we see the lead-out train of Little Trek coming to the front with 1.4 kilometers to go and just guiding it in towards the finish line. And the question is Milan going to be able to deliver? Milan comes out of the wheel of Consonni. In his wheel, Mathieu van der Poel. Was there a second you thought Mathieu could take it?
No. No. Because he wasn't in Milan's wheel, Wright was. And
yeah, you're right.
He spent a lot of energy fighting for position. I have to rewatch it, so I'm not going to make any firm conclusions. But yeah, Van der Poel was a bit of a menace in this sprint. And he's back in TDF mode. So look out for the Alpecinis in the sprints. I'd steer clear of them. But yeah, Milan wins easily. Who came second? Fred Wright comes second in the draft of Milan. Van der Poel third. Fredheim. No way, Benji. Paul Penway's been relegated.
Really?
Did he get... I got to rewatch this. Sorry.
So...
Is Penway the guy that Van der Poel tried to kill?
No. So with about 1 kilometer to go, we've got a fight between Janier and Penway. Janier... I feel like Penway was the harshest of the two and was using his elbow to push Janier out of the way. I think that's what led to relegation and not the actual sprint. And I'm not shocked. I would have expected a yellow card. I wasn't expecting a proper relegation, but who the fuck cares? Let's be honest about it. It's top 10 position in the Dauphiné. Penway probably cares, but I'm not moved by it.
Which one's Penway? So Penway and what is to Janier? He does it?
Janier is the Total guy with about 1 kilometer to go. He's watching right now, by the way, for the podcast listeners. I'm going to describe his face. He's got a shocking awe in his face and his mouth. His chin is on the ground.
What did Penway do different to what Van der Poel did?
I didn't see what Van der Poel did, so I can't answer that question.
He did basically the same. I mean, who's the lead up 55? Who's the lead up for... I should probably know who's in this race. It would always help.
For who? Sir,
Stannard
speak.
For Bahrain. Stannard for Bahrain.
Okay.
He actually did a really good lead out. Although, yeah, they probably shouldn't have done that press release last year when they signed him.
Yeah.
What was I going to say?
Anyway.
Yeah. So Penway's relegated. I should finish the top 10. Genier's 5th, Tranchant 6th, Fedorov 7th, Louvel 8th, Venturini 9th, Trentin 10th. Really strange top 10. The Dauphiné always has just a bizarre top 10 in the sprints. I mean, Ackermann got dropped. And then Stewart must have let out Louvel. Bit strange.
Wait. Where's Louvel riding these days?
IPT.
What the hell? Really?
Yeah.
This was the Arkea dude that was looking good 2 years. Now he's on IPT.
Yeah. He's had knee injuries or some injuries, I think. He's actually quite talented.
I completely missed that transfer.
I mean, it's not one you really have to keep your finger on the pulse for, but...
It's like Lutsenko yesterday.
He's here. Where's he finished? Is he able to go on the break? Lutsenko finished 19th. Okay. Lutsenko finished 19th. He's back. He's winning on stage 6 or 8.
He was positioning their sprinters as well.
Yeah. So it was a sprint stage. Milan takes the GC lead by virtue of stage positions on Pogačar, and Van der Poel is third on GC on 2 seconds. I think that's about all from this stage, Benji. Proceed to tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Tomorrow's also going to be a sprint most likely, or do we see different things? Because
I don't think so.
Which way, do you mean breakaway possibility because of the climb at the start?
If these teams don't get in a break, every DS should be fired.
Is this the Brent van Moer stage?
Yes. Like, look at Johnny Milan and look at Van der Poel. So, right, if you say Milan gets dropped on that, so I should probably do the stage profile first. 270 kilometers long. It opens with a 4K 5% climb, a very short descent, and then there's a 3K. No, longer. There's a 6K 7% climb. Both of those are in the first 20Ks. So, Trek, what are they going to do? They can't leave me. If they leave Milan behind, or go back to him, they also have to control the people jumping in the breakaway. They're in a very difficult position. And then you have rolling terrain. It's hard. It's hot. It doesn't look like a lot of high mountains. It's hard. And then there's a 1.2k, 9.5% climb, 19 k's from the finish, before a 900 meter, 5% climb, 9 kilometers from the finish. As Benji said, I wish there were bonus sprints on top of either of those two. After what we saw with Milan's climbing today, you cannot just allow this to be a sprint.
I agree. But I have lost confidence in the peloton, my friend. We've had this discussion numerous times where we look at the stage and it's like, oh, perfect start to the stage. Lots of breakaway riders up the road. Little Trek will have trouble controlling them. And then Paul Ursulin from Cofidis is in the breakaway on a solo ride. I'm sorry, but I've lost my confidence in this peloton. So you can choose a breakaway rider. I'm going to pick Jonathan Milan.
No way. I mean, that because like Alpecin,
it would shock me too, to be honest.
You could then say, oh, well, Alpecin will make it a hilly, a hard sprint stage, a reduced sprint. Their team's not that strong either. And Alpecin, when was the last time Alpecin controlled a whole stage themselves without help from another team? They never do it. In the Giro, when there was jumping, they just put Groves in the break.
On a serious note, if breakaway, Magnus Cort Nielsen.
Oh, he looked ratchet today.
He was doing it on purpose.
That's a good call, Benji. I think he's a veteran. He's a veteran. He might know what he's doing.
Or he's not doing well and
or
it
he's
will backfire.
In terrible shape. I think if Fred Wright's climbing well, he's got to get in the break. Axel Laurence, you ain't winning from the peloton. Breakaway with Foss. Ben Healy, Baudin, Archie Ryan. It's a beautiful team for the breakaway. Sergio Higuita exists. Jordan Labrosse, Paul Seixas, Tranchon himself.
Matteo Verchet is back.
Verchet is a good call. There's so many guys that should... Turgis. Like...
Is Verchet a guy that nearly won a Vuelta stage last year?
I think he's
behind
won...
Campenaerts?
He was second in the Tour de France stage that Campenaerts won.
Oh, Vuelta, Tour de France, it's all the same, right?
Cohn Bowman, Demarchi.
Bauman's looked shit at the Giro. Did he ride the Giro? I think he rode the Giro.
Yeah, maybe abandoned with sickness. Cavagna. There's just too many to name, so I think it has to be breakaway. And yeah, would anyone stop Van Hills going in the break? Or Picky?
I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Well, I wouldn't either.
Luke
Anyway.
says Pogacar is going to win the stage. That's his pick. I mean, that's a pretty safe bet. That it's a hard stage, the break doesn't make it, and Pogacar wins, yeah. When in doubt, Pogacar wins. Yeah. Okay. Oh, he says he means he'll chase Van Hills. Nah, he was chasing Tullet, not Van Hills. That's all from us. Otherwise, in respect to the Dauphiné, in Antwerp, Port Epic, Timo Kielich won. In GP Mazda Schelkens,
the weekly shouting. Or do we not do a weekly?
No, we're not doing a weekly.
Okay.
Or are we?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I'll save it. I'll save it when in doubt, and we'll discuss off air. But thanks for listening as always. Hope you enjoyed the recap. Kudos to Little Trek and Johnny Milan. They keep winning. Pedersen and Milan now. Good omen for them for the tour. And we'll see you with the recap of Stage 3 tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.